Fans go crazy face screaming in fear. Roger Federer backs Alex Eala with $500,000 deal. Imagine being a 20-year-old girl from the Philippines, sitting across from representatives of the greatest tennis player who ever lived, expecting nothing more than a polite conversation about your career, and then walking out with $500,000 and the most powerful endorsement in the sport. That is exactly what happened to Alex Eala. And when the internet found out, the world absolutely lost its mind. This wasn't a press conference. There was no red carpet, no staged handshake in front of cameras, no perfectly worded corporate announcement. This was quiet, private, personal. And that's exactly what made it so extraordinary. Because when Roger Federer, billionaire, legend, and one of the most calculated minds in the business of sports, decides to put his name and his money behind someone, he doesn't do it for publicity. He does it because he sees something rare, something generational. And in Alex Eala, he saw exactly that. But to understand why this moment hit the way it did, you can't just start at the end. You have to go back to the beginning. Because this story didn't start with Miami. It didn't start with viral clips or sponsorship deals. It started in Quezon City, Philippines, in 2005, on a street where kids grew up dreaming of basketball courts and boxing rings. Not tennis academies in Spain. Alex Eala was born on May 23, 2005, into a family that understood athletic excellence. Her mother, Roger, wasn't just any sports mom. She was a former national swimmer who won a bronze medal at the 1985 Southeast Asian Games. Her father, Mike, was a businessman with a deep love for sport. So the DNA was there. The competitive fire was already written into her bloodline. But tennis? In the Philippines? That was nobody's plan. That was just the universe deciding it had something different in mind for this particular kid. By the time she was 8 years old, Globe Telecom, one of the largest corporations in the entire Philippines, had already signed her as a brand ambassador. Let that sink in for a second. She wasn't a teenager. She hadn't won anything major yet. She was a child holding a racket, and somehow the people watching her already knew. There was something about the way she moved, the way she carried herself on a court, that made you stop whatever you were doing and just stare. That kind of presence can't be taught. You either have it or you don't. Alex Eala had it at 8 years old. Then came the decision that would change everything. At 13, she left home. She packed her bags, said goodbye to her family, and flew to Manacor, Majorca, a small city on the Spanish island where Rafael Nadal himself grew up and built the academy that bears his name. The Rafa Nadal Academy. One of the most elite tennis training environments on the planet. And Alex didn't just show up, she stayed. For 6 years. Longer than any other student in the academy's entire history. 6 years of waking up every morning thousands of miles from home, grinding on clay courts in Spain, competing daily against the best young players in the world, learning a new language, adapting to a new culture, and doing all of it without a single complaint. Not one. Tony Nadal, the man who built Rafael Nadal into a champion, later confirmed it himself. In all her years at that academy, neither Alex nor her family ever complained about anything. For a teenager living that far from home under that kind of pressure, that level of quiet professionalism is almost unheard of. And then in 2022, she made history. At the US Open in New York City, Alex Eala became the first Filipino ever to win a Grand Slam junior singles title. The Philippines didn't just celebrate, they erupted. An entire nation that had been watching this girl grow up, that had believed in her before she'd even proven herself on the world stage, finally got to exhale. She had done it. She had gone to the other side of the world, put in the work no one fully sees, and come back with hardware that no Filipino had ever touched before. But 2025 to 2025 was something else entirely. She arrived at the Miami Open ranked 140th in the world. 140th. She was handed a wild card, which in tennis terms means you're basically being given an invitation out of goodwill more than expectation. Nobody had her as a threat. Nobody was writing articles about her upsetting anyone. She was supposed to be grateful just to be there and go home quietly after a round or two. That was the plan everyone had for her. Everyone except Alex. Her first test was Yelena Ostapenko, former French Open champion. A player known for hitting the ball so hard and so fearlessly that she makes some of the best players in the world look unprepared. Ella beat her. Cleanly. Calmly. like she had done it 100 times before. People noticed, but figured it was a one-off. An upset happens. Move on, then came Madison Keys, the reigning Australian Open champion. A power player with one of the biggest serves in women's tennis. Alex Eala beat her in straight sets. Now the buzz was real. Philippine social media was on fire. International journalists were starting to pay attention. People were pulling up her name, looking at her rankings, trying to figure out who exactly this young woman was and where she had come from. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared anyone for what happened next. Iga Swiatek. World number 2. Four-time French Open champion. One of the most mentally and physically dominant players of the modern era. A player who doesn't just beat opponents, she breaks them. She dismantles their confidence point by point until there's nothing left. That is who Alex Eala walked onto the court to face. And what happened next sent shockwaves through the entire tennis world. Alex Eala beat her in straight sets. A wild card ranked 140th in the world had just defeated a reigning major winner and one of the greatest players alive, and she did it without dropping a set. Tony Nadal called it out directly. How rare it is to take down the world number 2 and number 5 in the same tournament. Rare doesn't even begin to cover it. What Alex did in Miami wasn't just an upset. It was a statement. She became the first Filipino to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal. The first Filipino woman in the Open era to defeat a major champion at tour level. And the first wild card in the history of the sport to beat 3 major champions in straight sets at a single WTA event. All at once. All in the same tournament. At 20 years old. Now enter Roger Federer. And you need to understand who Roger Federer is in 2025, because he is not just a retired tennis player making occasional appearances at charity events. He is a billionaire. A brand architect. A businessman who has turned his name into one of the most valuable assets in sports. When Nike hesitated to renew his contract back in 2017 after more than 2 decades together, Federer didn't beg. He walked. He signed a 10-year, $300 million deal with Uniqlo, one of the richest apparel agreements any athlete has ever secured. And because Uniqlo didn't make shoes, he went searching for a footwear partner and found On Running, a small Swiss startup from Zurich that almost nobody outside of triathlon circles had heard of at the time. In 2019, instead of just signing an endorsement contract, Federer invested $50 million for a 3% ownership stake in the company. By 2025, On Running's valuation had climbed past $19 billion. His stake alone was worth close to $500 million. Add his Uniqlo deal, his partnerships with Rolex and Mercedes-Benz, and his management firm Team 8, and Forbes confirmed what everyone had begun to suspect. Roger Federer was officially a billionaire, with an estimated net worth of $1.3 billion, but here's the part that matters most. Federer didn't disappear into his wealth. Through Team 8, he made it his personal mission to find the next generation of tennis greatness. Players like Ben Shelton, players who had the talent and the character to carry the sport forward. He wasn't done with tennis. He was just playing a different game now, and then he found Alex Eala weeks after the Miami Open. A private meeting was arranged through intermediaries. No cameras, no publicists, no announcement. Federer's team sat down with Eala's representatives. And what came out of that meeting was a $500,000 personal sponsorship, structured not as a typical brand deal, but as a foundational investment in her future. The deal came with integration into the On Running ecosystem, the same platform that had already helped elevate Swiatek, Shelton, and others to global recognition. This wasn't a company handing a check to a promising athlete. This was Roger Federer personally betting on a human being. A brief, unscripted clip leaked onto social media. In it, you could see Alex Eala visibly emotional, genuinely caught off guard, as she processed what she had just been told. She had walked into that room expecting career advice. She walked out with the endorsement of the greatest player the sport has ever seen, backed by the financial power of someone who had built a billion-dollar empire by knowing exactly who to bet on and when. The clip spread within hours. Millions of views. The Philippines didn't sleep that night. Tennis forums in Europe couldn't stop talking. Fan comments poured in from every corner of the internet. One wrote, "She beat them on the court. Now Federer's betting on her off it." Another simply said, "The Philippines is shaking right now." And honestly, both were correct. Here's the thing about Alex Eala that people outside the Philippines are only now beginning to grasp. She isn't just the next big thing in Philippine tennis. She is the next big thing in tennis, period. Women's tennis in Asia has been searching for its defining figure for years. Naomi Osaka came close, but her journey has been complicated. Eala is different. A Southeast Asian athlete trained at the highest level in Europe, carrying an entire region's hopes on her shoulders without ever showing the weight of it. Her market potential stretches across hundreds of millions of fans in the Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, Singapore, and beyond, fans who have never truly had a tennis player to call their own. Until now, entering 2025, Alex Eala had earned just under $500,000 in career prize money over 5 years. A respectable number until you factor in coaching fees, travel, equipment, physiotherapy, and accommodation across dozens of tournaments every year. The financial margin at that level of tennis is razor thin. A $500,000 sponsorship backed by Federer's credibility and the on-running ecosystem doesn't just help with the bills. It changes the entire conversation. It tells brands, it tells the sport, it tells the world, this is not a player to watch next year. This is a player to invest in right now. Roger Federer once stood at a commencement ceremony at Dartmouth and told graduating students that life is much bigger than the court. Those words could have been written specifically for Alex Eala. Because what she is building right now is already bigger than any tournament, any ranking, any sponsorship deal. She is building a movement. She is the reason a little girl in Manila is picking up a racket today and actually believing that the summit is reachable. From a 13-year-old who left everything she knew to chase a dream in Spain, to a 20-year-old with Roger Federer in her corner and the entire world watching. Alex Eala's story is proof that when excellence is real, it cannot stay hidden forever. The world found her in 2025. And it is not looking away anytime soon.